CM Punk has finally given the truth about WWE, a decision that the company made and the landscape of the company. In this video, we're going to be discussing what CM Punk had to say in two different interviews that has fans talking, one of which may have gone under your radar. Now, look, let's talk about the first decision. Let's talk about the first interview. Let's talk about a huge moment in the career of CM Punk. While he has never been able to have the chance to main event at WrestleMania, well, that's about to end. He didn't do so during his first run, including a reign that lasted over 300 days as WWE champion. Even his match with Chris Jericho at WrestleMania 29, that didn't get to headline WrestleMania. Instead, or WrestleMania 28, he worked Taker at WrestleMania 29. Now he's going to get the opportunity. He's going to go up against Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins in a triple threat match. It's going to headline night one of WrestleMania 41. A year ago, CM Punk was supposed to win the Royal Rumble and go on and challenge Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight title at WrestleMania 40 before he got injured. Now he's going to be able to do what he always set out to do. Keep in mind that Punk has been very outspoken in the past, most notably on the Colt Cabana podcast a number of years ago about how he always wanted the WrestleMania main event, yet WWE simply didn't give it to him. Well, he recently did an interview with WWE Dutchland, and he noted that WrestleMania being two-night event gives more stars the opportunity to headline the show of shows. He said, "I'm excited. WrestleMania is two nights now, so I think it gives more opportunity to people to experience the rare air of a WrestleMania main event." Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins are two guys that I helped kind of get out there and to the main roster many, many moons ago. So it's exciting for me to see how long they've held it down and how for how far they've come where they started. And it's going to be a special show to them. It's kind of like daddy's back things. CM Punk back. So you're still here. I'm still here. Ha ha ha. So that was the first interview, which is okay. I think what I need to preference this is WWE's decision to turn WrestleMania into a two-night event. First of all, it was done obviously in 2020 at WrestleMania 36. They did so for two different reasons. Number one, more importantly, it was a pandemic and they were trying to fill as much content as possible. They were still trying to build up the WWE network, right? They had made a deal with ESPN where they were airing old classic, WrestleMania events and programs on the networks because they were just filling time for everyone. And they looked at WrestleMania 36 as, okay, it's the pandemic, but we could have a lot of eyes on this. Let's try to maximize it and let's try to get as many people on there as possible. Also, the year before in 2019 at WrestleMania 35, that was a bad WrestleMania, in my opinion, because of how long it went. They had several matches on the card that probably didn't need to be on the card and or went longer than they probably should have. And that really, really hurt the product. It hurt the show. And I think that is why when CM Punk talks about, hey, I didn't get a WrestleMania main event in the past, but look, I get an opportunity to right that wrong. I get the opportunity to do so as long as he stays healthy. And it being a two-night show, it helps the product, it helps the fans, it helps the wrestlers because it gives wrestlers more opportunity to be in the main event of a WrestleMania, a la CM Punk. He would not have been in a WrestleMania main event this year, even though he's working with two of the top stars in Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, right? Cody Rhodes, John Cena, undisputed WWE Championship. That is the true bona fide main event, right? And you also have to look at it from a fan standpoint of like, what's a knock about AEW's product when they hold just absolutely amazing pay-per-view events? It's the fact that they go too long, and it's like, okay, we get it. Like, we know you're going to give us a great show. Does it have to be 4 hours? Oh yeah, it does, doesn't it? All right, crap, kind of thing. So you're giving the fans a little bit of a breather by saying, "Hey, will you just watch this 3-hour show instead of a 6-hour show?" Like, that's a lot easier said than done, obviously, but that's what they're basically asking you. Now, another thing that Punk talked about that I want to talk about in today's video is he did an interview with the Rich Eisen show, and he spoke about facing Roman and Seth at WrestleMania 41, considering their history that goes back many years ago. And he talked about, the Shield days and that basically shared sentiments in which he shared in the previous interview. He also talked about the WWE landscape, which I thought was interesting. He said, I was always looking towards the future. Yeah, there's the now, that's me, there's Cena. But outside of that, I would look at the landscape and be like, what do we need to do to get money, talent in a position that I'm in now? How do I bring guys up? How do we elevate superstars? So the idea of the Shield, that was simple. I need guys to work with for good or bad, whether I like them or I hate them, whether I'm going to wind up having personal problems with them. He also continued by stating, I needed talented individuals to work with, or I have nobody to work with in the future. Lo and behold, who am I working with at WrestleMania? So life's pretty funny the way things kind of worked out. I just don't want those guys to forget that they were picked for a reason. I brought them into this, and at WrestleMania, I get the chance to take them out. So keep in mind that Punk had talked about this on the Colt Cabana podcast, where initially, he came up with the idea of, okay, they want to do a group, right? WWE wants to do a group with Punk. He's like, okay, fine. And they start pitching out names. I don't remember all of them, but initially it was like Big Show, Bryan Danielson, and somebody else. And he's like, well, I don't really like that idea. You can always do Punk versus Danielson anytime, anywhere, any place, under any circumstances. Probably don't need to burn that bridge by having them in an alliance. And then he wasn't very open to the idea of, being in a group with the Big Show, who at that point, we're talking what, 2012, 2013, and going into 2014 of, he would turn every single week, it seemed like. One week he was a babyface, and next week he was a heel. No one took him seriously, right? And so he came up with the idea of like, it was John Moxley, it was Seth, and it was Chris Hero. They didn't want Chris Hero, they wanted one of their guys, as Punk put it, and it was Roman. And so that's where they went off. And initially they came in there and they helped Punk, but they quickly, I don't even think they were ever necessarily associated with Punk on television outside of the initial attack of, okay, these guys are so over. They're booked so differently. And the fact that WWE was in absolute love, aka Vince McMahon was, with Roman Reigns, that's why that group took off the way that it did initially, right? And then the fans got behind it and the booking was strong. So it all made sense. It all worked out. But in the end, I think bringing in those guys the way that they did really, really helped the business, obviously, turned them into top stars, and CM Punk sees that. So very, very good insight from old Phil in these two interviews. And I hope you enjoyed it.